welcome back to NES Generation.
Today, we're going to be taking a look at Volume 23 of Nintendo Power, which features Power Blade on the cover.
We'll also be taking a look at Totally Rad, and if you're interested in any of the games in particular, we've added timestamps in the description so you can jump directly to that game.
And make sure you let us know in the comments what NES game you think is totally rad.
Let's jump right in. On the cover of this issue of Nintendo Power is Power Blade. The first game we're looking at today was published by Taito in 1991 and is a action platformer. I think the distinctive thing about this game is that you have a boomerang as your main weapon, but it's called the Power Blade in the game. What things did you find interesting about this game, Laurel?
I thought that only having the Power Blade as your weapon along with a few special attacks, that was kind of interesting, and how you would collect the power-ups for the Power Blade. I knew that there were ones that increased the range for it. As you filled up the power bar, you'd get more range to be able to throw it further. And
so then there's a power-up suit that you can get that gives you, it wasn't super clear, but I guess there's actually a sort of a regular boomerang mode and then a mode where it's actually the Power Blade, where it has a lot more power to the attack. But in order to wield that, you have to have the metal suit power-up. And you could fire in different directions. There's a power-up that gives you multiple boomerangs at the same time, which definitely feels more powerful when you get that. I thought his running animation is fairly unique in this game.
It is.
It kind of reminds me of the over-exaggerated run you see with characters in some anime.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
Kind of doing their funny run,
yeah,
when they're super freaked out, they're over-exaggerating the run. There's some weird, quirky stuff. One of the levels had these faces that were spitting out bubbles. The story is that kind of classic, computer runs your civilization, but it's being overtaken by an enemy force.
It's aliens.
Or alien terrorists.
Oh boy.
So you are Nova, I guess some kind of special agent who is sent in. There's 6 sectors, kind of similar to Mega Man. So right off the bat, you can pick which levels you want to enter, which I think is always nice, especially as a kid, playing these games where you would get stuck before the internet, and you'd get stuck on the game. But if it was a very linear, play level 1 and level 2, you would just get to a certain point and then just be stuck.
Right, but this one's nice because you can play through levels, and then when if you get stuck on one, you're oh, maybe if I finish this different level, it'll give me a power-up, or I'll get better at using this special skill or something. So
I feel like it gives a lot of variety in the playthrough. I think there are quite a few similarities to Mega Man, kind of a robotic theme.
Right.
Some of the levels, water backgrounds. There's one of them, I think the last one we looked at, Mega Man 3, I can't remember now if it was number 2 or 3, has the frog stage that starts out, but some of this reminded me of that style as well. So you've got another one of the power-ups was a grenade, kind of a kill everything on the screen.
Right.
As a quick way to dispatch enemies. And that's always kind of a thing too in these games is you'll get these various power-ups, but there's a lot of strategy in deciding where you're going to use that certain item, because there might be a place where it just makes a lot of sense to use the grenade every time. So that in each of these 6 sectors, you have to find, I can't remember what they called him, an agent or something.
An ID card?
Well, yes, there was another agent who's your contact or whatever.
Yeah.
They give you the ID card that lets you into the boss fight, which adds another interesting level to it, in that you can't just kind of go straight through the level to get to the end. You have to find that contact to give you the ID card, which lets you get to the final boss for that zone.
Yeah, and I know that in some of them it isn't the ID card for that specific sector. Like when I played through Sector 3, I got the ID card for Sector 4.
That's kind of cool too, and that similar to Mega Man, where you're using in that one, you're getting weapons from fighting a boss in one zone that lets you fight a different one more efficiently. But that's a cool mechanic of bringing things across the different zones and giving you a reason to go back to other ones or attack them in a certain order. Our second game today is the totally excellent Totally Rad, published by Jaleco in 1990. This is a really quirky game, to say the least. First up, we just have to mention the manual for this, because...
It's interesting.
Yeah, the whole thing is filled with 90s surfer speak, and then just, like, they were doing it as a joke, but... It's just bizarre, like, all these random photos thrown in.
I think there's one where it's like, yeah, this is my boss. He's totally unrelated to the game. But yeah, anyways. And I was like, okay, what was the reason?
Yeah, it was very interesting. So you are this guy, Jake. You and your girlfriend, Allison, meet this magician that has been banished from the underworld. Really bizarre storyline. You're basically trying to rescue your girlfriend who's kidnapped, going on this crazy adventure.
And you're a student of the magician. I feel like that's important.
Kind of a big mechanic in this one is you can go into like a pause menu and select which of the magical skills is enabled. There's a number of different ones like healing. There was a shield, pausing all the enemies on the screen. And then there were there's 4 different sort of elemental attacks like fire, wind.
Right.
I didn't really get far enough in to tell like if certain enemies had weaknesses to different
it seemed like
spells, but
I'm
pretty sure that was probably the idea of it.
And you could also turn into different animals.
So there's a fish that lets you swim.
I feel like there's a lion.
A lion that lets you jump higher, and then an eagle that lets you fly. When you are the fish, he's kind of almost looks like a lizard, but I guess it's more just a fish head with kind of a regular looking body.
And they're just kind of green all over. I thought it was a lizard.
I could see how you would think that. So your main attack is kind of a projectile thing that you're shooting. You can charge it up, so you can either do just a single quick shot or charge it up. I found the charged up one was hard to use because you couldn't charge it up and then move.
Like often in jump with it.
Yeah, so a lot of games like Zelda or things where there was like a charged attack, I feel like you often will like charge up and then move around and like wait for an attack to be needed. Whereas this, you could only use that charged up thing if you were ready to attack, basically. Like you had to be standing, charge up, and then attack. The at least the two bosses that I saw seemed fairly varied. The first one was a guy that's kind of throwing barrels at you, similar to Donkey Kong kind of thing, except he's not above you. He's throwing them in from the right side. And then the second boss was this really large guy kind of throwing popcorn, it looked like, at you.
I think he's supposed to be modeled after like an ear of corn.
Interesting. Yeah, that would make sense. Then after each level, your health and magic refills. Didn't seem like there was a way to refill your magic within the level. So
there is.
It was kind of a strategic thing of planning out like what spells you were going to use up that set amount of magic. You could either use it for healing or plan to, use one of the other spells in a more kind of offensive thing versus a defensive. One thing I noticed on the first level was it has a parallax scrolling up the top, give it a good sense of distance. I'd noticed some slowdown when there was a lot of enemies on the screen. It would get kind of slow and choppy.
I definitely experienced some lag, and I was like, uh-oh, that's not great.
One other thing I noticed that was interesting is that if there are hills, you actually slide down them. It's something I haven't seen in a lot of platforming games. I feel like if there's like a 45-degree angle, you can kind of just walk up it and stop on the hill. But this one, if you jump or stop halfway on a slope, you'll slide down it. One thing that was funny was the dying animation.
Right.
When he dies and he falls down and pounds his fist on the ground.
Yeah.
It's a very unique game, and again, seemed fairly well done. We're getting further along in the NES life cycle and getting some more refined games. This is one that I'd never even heard of growing up, but enjoyed going back and taking a look at it, and definitely one that I'll probably sit down and play some more at some point. Thanks for joining us on another episode of NES Generation.
If you liked this video and want to see more, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe.